年一緒に旅しただけだし。
The thing about Frieren is that it is not a very conventional anime. When you think of popular anime, Frieren just doesn't fit the formula. Now, it's probably one of the greatest animes of all time, objectively, is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. If you ask any anime fan, or any anime fan that goes on my animes list specifically, before Frieren came out, they would tell you that the most objectively best anime is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, due to it being so highly rated for a decade, if not more. But Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is a shonen, which is very different from what Frieren is. Frieren is a very slow burner anime, and honestly, for its time, it's very different compared to the anime in the 2020s. For example, Mushoku Tensei. It is not... Yeah, it's a popular show. Would I say it's on the level of Frieren? No. Is it similar to Frieren? Absolutely not. If you look at... I don't know. What's an anime that came out recently? If you look at Gachiakuta, shonen. If you look at Steel Ball Run, the shonen. These types of shows, slow burner shows, just aren't popular. Now, if you can think of any slow burner shows that are popular, I'll commend you for that. But for some reason, it's this slow burner show that people call peak. Now, I think that besides Frieren, there are two slow burner shows. Steins Gate, which is kind of, but Monster especially. Monster and Steins Gate are considered probably one of the best anime of all time. It's definitely top 100. It's so good. Just look at the ratings on my anime list, but they're slow burner episodes, causing a lot of people to drop them and a lot of people to not like them. Like Steins Gate having the first 12 episodes of absolutely nothing. And Monster, honestly, I thought Monster was pretty interesting. So I'm not going to say they had 24 episodes of almost nothing. But now, there is a charm with these slow burner shows, because I find myself watching these slow burner shows way longer than any other types of anime. For example, Gachiakuta, I dropped it. I can't watch it. JJK Season 3, can't really watch it. But Monster, I sat through all 24 episodes, from the side story, from the beginner saga. I watched all of it. And also for Steins Gate, I watched all 12 episodes, and I made it to that turning point where they actually got into the bulk of the story. Now, when you think about it, Monster, probably one of the most boring parts of Monster, which is the beginning, is the entirety of Frieren Season 1. Yet, Frieren made it had such a bigger impact on me than Monster or Steins Gate. Well, one, Monster and Steins Gate tackle way more complicated topics, but also Frieren just changed my worldview. Frieren's world is very interesting because it's really about the journey. Now, the title, Frieren Beyond Journey's End, it tells you straight up. The story is based on a story that's already happened. Maybe I worded that wrong. But Frieren is a story after a story. And when you're watching Frieren, there is no scenes of combat. There's very few. And it's almost as if Frieren doesn't see these combat scenes or these high stakes events as memorable. Like, she doesn't remember these. Yes, she remembers them, obviously, but she doesn't find them memorable. Some moments that I found were very significant were the precious moments, like when they discovered a demonic horn, or when they're frolicking in the flowers. Now, it's kind of reminiscent of a quote that I'm not sure many have heard. Well, I'm sure probably all of you have heard, but it's not about the end result, but it's about the journey. Frieren as a show doesn't have a lot. There is no definite plot. There is a couple arcs. It's honestly very similar to a slice of life show, which wouldn't slice of life just isn't a genre that is very popular, but the plot isn't why Frieren is number one on my anime list. It's the characters. Now, many people say that Frieren undergone no character development, but I would argue that isn't true. Now, one of the obvious ways that she is undergoing character development is that she is going on a whole adventure to talk to Himmel again. Like, to Frieren, this 10-year journey was nothing. The 10-year journey that she had with all her companions to go kill the Demon King was nothing. But for Himmel, it was a chapter of his life that is gone. And Frieren's tears during his funeral tells the viewer that Frieren really has changed. She really understands this passage of time, and she understood the weight of human life and how time and other just time and experiences has such a big burden on human life. And I think this is when she really started to cherish people, to cherish time, something that she has so much of. And she realizes that other people, time is not like oxygen, where it's so accessible. Time is something valuable. Time is something that you would trade a fortune for. It's not just something to toss around. And one of the main ways that she shows this, as well, not only to show that time is valuable, but also to recognize the valuable nature of human life and how valuable human life is Old Man Vol. Old Man Vol is Frieren and her growth as the character personified. Old Man Vol shows to us that every human is unique, every human has their story, their traits, their personality, their belief in their own things, their religious, political, whatever. But Old Man Vol defending the village for a reason that he doesn't know is quite interesting, because he recalls that there was a reason for defending the village, but he doesn't know what that reason is. But the thing that I find special is that it's very obvious that it is his wife. We are made very clear that it is a human that loved the village, and it was his wife. And honestly, it makes me sad that he doesn't remember her face. But honestly, it just connects to the uniqueness of life. That everything people do, they do it for a reason. And everyone has their own story, and everyone has their own reason for doing things, as I've said. Frieren comes to realize the importance of people's stories and their lives when on her journey with Himmel. Frieren becomes this beacon that carries the story of the people of ancient times, or back then, I guess, into the life of people into the next generation, like Flamma, the mage, someone that honestly is stuff of legend, but Frieren is able to take her story and pass it on to the next generation. Furthermore, we must realize that everyone has an equal amount of time, and that time passes in every moment. As I type this script and as you watch this video, taking things for granted isn't hard. It's extremely difficult to be grateful for everything you have, because there are just some things that are so accessible to you that you tend to forget about it. Like, imagine you had a stuffy nose or something. I'm sure you've thought, man, I wish I could breathe. Look at all these people who are breathing through their noses just fine. And that's kind of how humans see Frieren. Humans with so little time seeing an entity with so much time. It's not that Frieren doesn't value time, she just doesn't realize that it is something valuable. Throughout the series, we see Frieren change. This worldview, she believes, well, not she believes, but something very subtle that is shown is that she never says goodbye to people. Now, obviously, she does say goodbye to people, but she never has a big goodbye for people. She believes that one day she will meet them again, a habit that she adopted from Himmel. You could say that this is her way of taking people for granted, but it isn't. It is her way of treasuring people without growing attached to them. Not only that, but it's her way of accepting that time is passing, her way of honoring the past, but also moving forward with her journey, her life, etc. Fern establishes this by actually showing the passage of time that is happening in the show. Obviously, Fern growing from a girl to a young adult, obviously, but also just constant reminders throughout the show, blank years after Himmel's death, which reminds the reader that the time passing in the show is passing at rates that we don't experience. Because, well, obviously it's a show, but also kind of just to emphasize the passage of time. But to further emphasize that, instead of Fern being a plot device to show how Frieren has developed as a character, Fern is treated in a way to show the fleeting time that the world is going through. Now, even though anime, it is often overlooked how time is still passing as we watch these shows. Think about it. Yeah, you watched 20 minutes, but in that show, it could have, 30 years could have passed. Like, honestly, we just have to recognize the passage of time and, realize that, yeah, they're in an anime, but time is still passing for them. Despite the boring nature of the show, it really emphasizes this idea of cherishing your life. In Frieren, everything is drawn out. There is no super big fights all the time, but we take time to admire the world that this show has. Think back to every flashback that Frieren has had of the 10-year journey she went on. Almost every flashback had nothing to do with the main goal of that journey, to defeat the Demon King. Every flashback emphasized the little moments of the trip, Frieren getting stuck in a mimic again, or Heiter and Aizen jumping around in the flowers. This slow animation and story building is the charm that this show has. It really emphasizes the time spent. Similar to the title, this is Frieren's journey. Physically, because I don't know about you, but when I was watching the show, I slowly forgot the whole point of this journey happening. Because it really emphasizes the journey, and it almost never mentions the end result. However, despite this, characters around Frieren are changing. Characters are growing old, and they are learning, they are becoming better people, and they are gaining new experiences. In many ways, it is directly telling us how time is passing, even though we may have many years ahead of us. At the same time, we don't. With Frieren, we realize that time passes so fast. In a blink of an eye, Fern grows up to be a young adult. In a blink of an eye, 3 months have passed, and Frieren is still looking for the blue flower that Himmel promised to show her. Yes, the show is telling us that time is important and that we should cherish it, but more importantly, it is telling us how fast time is, because before you know it, you may be married with kids in just a blink of an eye. Time flies. A saying so simple yet carries so much weight, because even if we have 80 years on this planet, for Frieren, it passes in a blink of an eye. Thank you.